To another story that has gripped the United Kingdom and Kenya. Now, the Kenyan Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Chairman Ahmed Isaac Hassan was today questioned by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission over the Chicken Gate scandal. Hassan is the latest electoral official to be summoned after the EACC opened fresh investigations into bribery claims against former Electoral Commission officials. The bribes were allegedly given by the UK-based firm Smith & Usman in a contract for supply of electoral materials.
Electoral and Boundaries Commission Chairman Ahmed Isaac Hassan is the latest electoral official to be summoned for a second round of questioning after the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission opened fresh investigations into the Chicken Gate scandal. Pressure has been mounting for the prosecution of those mentioned in the scandal on account of information relied on by the United Kingdom's government to jail two of their nationals. Earlier last year, a UK-based court prosecuted Nicholas Charles Smith and Christopher John Smith, bosses of UK-based printing company Smith & Usman, for paying out bribes to electoral and examination officials. Isaac Hassan was expected to shed more light on the procurement of ballot papers for the 2010 constitutional referendum and the Bomachoge by-election in the same year. In January, the United Kingdom's Serious Fraud Office had handed over to Nairobi officials documents detailing the systematic bribery of Kenyan electoral and examination officials. The documents show that Kenyan electoral officials inflated the price of each of the 14.51 million ballot papers ordered for the 2010 referendum at the rate of 75 Kenyan cents per ballot paper, translating to kickbacks totaling to almost 14.8 million shillings.
I do not ask for or receive any bribe from anybody. I have not even mentioned in those correspondence as having asked for or received any bribe.
SFO detectives meticulously retrieved email exchanges between Smith & Usman and Kenyan electoral and exams officials, shipping invoices and local purchase orders used by the procuring entities to put forward a solid case of corruption. Meanwhile, none of the Kenyan officials mentioned in the scandal have been tried in court.
The people in UK were convicted of offense of conspiracy to bribe public officials. And so the prosecution in UK did not have to prove that actually any bribe was given to anybody.
Last week, the main suspect in the scam, Trevi Oyombra, Commissioner Yusuf Nzibo, former CEO James Uswago, and procurement officials were grilled for hours by the EACC. Data from the Serious Fraud Unit now places the matter squarely on the doorsteps of Kenya's Anti-Corruption Agency. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chair Philip Kinisu said an analysis of the case would be forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions. Noah Otieno, KTN News.
Isaac Hassan is just from overseeing the by-elections in Kericho and Malindi, where in Malindi constituency, ODM is savoring its victory over Jubilee. But the topic of discussion now is how ODM has shown the party rebels to the political powers in the coastal region relays. KTN's Chris Thairo puts the Malindi by-election outcome into perspective.
After 2 months of spirited campaigns staged by high-powered delegation from the two rival coalitions, CORD and Jubilee, led by President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, finally voters in Malindi constituency have decided that William Omutengo will represent them in the 11th Parliament for the remaining 14 months. CORD pulled all the stops to ensure that they do not lose face by losing Malindi, and Jubilee did everything to wrench the seat away from CORD. The message for Jubilee seems to be that the locals are yet to be convinced on why they should support the ruling coalition.
Raiding, even getting all these MPs, and nothing much has happened. The message is clear that you need to address the fundamental questions that bother the people of that region. You have got to win their trust. That bribery, money, and other sweeteners will not do.
What is critical is that we cannot use a by-election to really judge what is likely to happen in a general election. Basically, because in a by-election you can afford to deploy your entire resources in one area, concentrate it, saturate it. Huge monies were spent. Obviously, it says something about our politics. Is our politics about money?
Political analyst Barak Muluka argues that by retaining the seat, ODM has reaffirmed its position, with Ali Hassan Joho, the ODM deputy party leader, now getting the bragging rights as the political kingpin in the coastal region.
He must have a feel-good factor after this, because he believes he's delivered for his party. Delivered against a serious assault, because that was what a cup of tea that was out there. They could have gone anyway, because you were looking at the power of money.
But the outcome of the Malindi by-election also brought to the fore the fire in the belly of the ODM party rebels, led by Kilifi North MP Gideon Mungaro. They openly, vigorously campaigned for the Jubilee candidate Philip Charo. Analysts say that now the voters have hung the rebels out to dry.
Their effort came to naught, that the leaders who migrated did not migrate with the voters, and that in fact they may have to go back to the drawing boards and see how either to get the voters to cross over with them or how to go back to the house that they decamped.
When the rebels look at it and realize that the ground has changed, they'll just go back and put on the same shirt and go on. And nobody might even remember to punish them. And I think that this is the tragedy of our politics.
With ODM winning the Malindi seat, a parliamentary seat, does Jubilee coalition still have hopes that they will at least get or they will lock votes in the coastal region even after issuing title deeds and also giving out goodies?
If the intervention is about reaching out to disaffected and hungry politicians with assorted appetites, and try to give them goodies and tell them that go and raid votes and voters for us, they will get nowhere.
With a total of 1.2 million registered voters, the coastal region still remains a critical battleground ahead of the 2017 general elections. The Malindi by-election was just the warm-up for 2017. Chris Dairo for KTN News.
Now, even as women around the world celebrated the International Women's Day today, at the Kenyan coast, women are crying for justice after ODM youth stripped a woman naked during the Malindi by-election. Now, coast women politicians are demanding action against the supporters of ODM who attacked the woman, beating her to the ground before pulling off her clothes, allegedly because she had been caught engaging in voter bribery at a Malindi polling station. The video, which has gone viral on the internet, has caused an uproar, with many demanding that the youth who can clearly been seen in the video be arrested and charged. Taita Taveta woman representative Naomi Shaban and nominated Senator Emma Mbura have castigated security officers for failing the lady in the said video.
Waliniuliza unavotia chama gani, nikamwambia no, that is my secret. Cha ajabu akaniambia lete mkoba tuangalie, wewe uko na pesa. Nikawapa begi yangu, wakafanya search, hawakupata hata shilingi. Walipokuwa hawakupata hata shilingi wakanipa ule mkoba. From there wakasema panda kwa gari. Huku kulikuwa askari, huku kulikuwa askari. Askari mmoja akabeba ID yangu, akaandika majina yangu, hakunipea ID up to date. Instead wanipeleke polisi, wakaniteremsha mpaka kwa polling station. Waliponiteremsha mpaka polling station, nikauliza what is happening, I've already vote. Dereva akateremka chini kidogo tu, hatua kama mita 3, akapiga simu. Less than 10 minutes nimeona group ya Joho ikiingia. Ilipoingia tu wakaanza kusema huyu mama ndiye anaharibu kura, huyu mama anaharibu kura.
Tunalalamika ya kwamba hatuwezi kuwa tuko nchi huru ya Kenya, askari wakiwa hapo karibu wameweza kuangalia bila kulinda usalama, mama akivuliwa nguo na kupigwa na kuumizwa.
Women are the ones that are receiving the bulk of it. We must condemn in the strongest terms possible this action.
hatujaona sababu na lengo la kuvua mama nguo. Kama alikuwa na pesa, angepelekwa polisi, pesa ikashikwa. Mpaka dakika hii hatujaona. Huo uliofanyika jana ni ukora. Stewart Mazayo jana alichukua pesa ya nyumbani ya rafiki. Pesa kidogo alikuwa nayo. Yeye na Amason Kingi walimpiga rafiki. Hiyo ni kuonekana siasa ya jana ilikuwa ni ya kihuni.
Disappointing happening, especially on this International Women's Day. Now, talking about electoral malpractices and offences, KTN Sophia Wanona's new show, The Last Word, premieres tonight on KTN News. Sophia, tell us more about your show.
Thank you, Ben, for having me. I'm very excited about this project. The Last Word is basically a current affairs show that seeks to separate facts from fiction. In a newsroom every day, we have so many stories we are covering. Today, the Bulletin is full of stories, and of course, there are many others that didn't make the cut to make it to the news. Right. But electoral malpractices is very important because there are many that see by-elections as a dry run for the general election. We are going to a general election. These have far-reaching repercussions and implications that if, as an issue, it is not discussed and more so action taken by all stakeholders involved, then we're only setting ourselves up. And we have 2007 as an example, right. 2008 for what happened, because electoral offences was some of those issues that led us to that violence. So tonight, the premiere of The Last Word, that's what we'll be doing, and one of my guests will be the manager of investigations at the IEBC, talking to us more about what the IEBC is doing, and also a political analyst and lawyer to help us understand what does the law say so that consequences can be seen to be meted against these individuals.
Good stuff. Be sure to catch The Last Word with Sophia Anona every Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. on KTN News. You're watching KTN Prime with Sophia, take a break. Right?
You are watching KTN Prime with Ben Kitili. Stay with us. He'll be back with more news, and of course, there's business and sports still ahead.
Welcome back to KTN Prime. Now, dedicating one's life to serving in the army calls for total commitment and diligence. It requires one to be ready to give up his or her life for their country. That is the path that one 75-year-old retired soldier took. And as KTN senior reporter Karon Dari now tells us, the soldier has no regrets about serving his nation, Kenya.
In the slopey hills of Morogoro in Nyeri County, Timothy Theuri Kyande's home is tucked away in this ample greenery. As the 75-year-old retired soldier welcomes us to his humble home, we cannot help but notice that he walks with a slight limp. A limp we come to later learn is a scar of the war that almost snuffed his life out in 1966. Deuri reminds us that while the present-day threat for Kenyan soldiers is primarily that of terrorism perpetuated by the Al-Shabaab militia, in their day, Deuri and his fellow soldiers fought hard against the shifter.
Tulifamiwa tukiwa mahali naitwa Maridaligacha na tukapigwa na watu ambao ni idadi kubwa sana, walikuwa kitu kama tukidhani tukiangalia ilikuwa ni watu kitu kama 300 to 350.
Deuri's lot was the first to serve under the Kenya Army when he transitioned from the Kenyan African Rifles. He vividly remembers the attack that took place exactly 50 years ago when he was just a robust, energetic, loyal 25-year-old soldier.
Nilipigwa risasi ya kichwa na ikaparalyze upande yangu ya kuchoto yote.
In the military vehicle that was part of the convoy attacked at Madagascar area between Lamu and Mandera, Deuri was sandwiched between two of his colleagues. Both were unfortunately killed by the enemy's bullets. In this photograph, Deuri is on his hospital bed at the then King George Hospital, the present-day Kenyatta National Hospital. Visiting him was the then Minister for Defense, Dr. Njoroge Mungai. He tells us how he had just bought a simple Kodak camera for about 25 Kenya shillings. That was in 1966, just before the attack. He had taken pictures of the convoy and his colleagues, pictures that he holds on to dearly. His bravery against the enemy is what earned him the Uhodari Medal from none other than the then President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. His eyes light up when he shows us the Uhodari Medal, the nostalgia evident. The father of 7 has even built a safe for this particular medal, the most treasured of his other medals. His invitation card to State House dated 29th February 1970 is also proudly displayed.
Na nikalipwa shilingi 300 baada ya miezi 3. Baada ya miezi 3 na nimepata 300. Tukaendelea kitu kama miaka 2, wakaongeza ikawa 1500. Kutokea hapo hakuna kitu kingine. Nikukaa tu sasa kugoja Mungu.
His daughter Purity Werimo has nothing but praise for her mentor and role model. So much so that she wanted to become a soldier like her father, but her dream did not materialize.
Si juu ya pesa. Mtu kama huyu akipatiwa nguvu na akuwa kirikongonaiziwa anaweza pata miaka mingi wacha hiyo 75, because huwa tunamcelebrate kama our hero because he fought for our country.
His wife Jane Deuri says it was not easy being a soldier's wife. Her most unloving time being the infamous 1982 coup.
Hata niliita mzee nikamuuliza kwani unalala? Kwa nini nasikia serikali imepinduliwa?
Given a chance to do it all over again, Timothy Theuri Kende would still choose to be a soldier serving on Kenyan soil. All he wants is for the soldiers to get adequate support from their government and all other stakeholders. Carol Derry, KTN News, Morogoro, Nyeri County.
Speak of dedication, now staying in the county of Nyeri, drama ensued at a funeral ceremony at Mairoini village in Odhaya, Nyeri County. But the family was stopped from burying their mother following a court order filed by one of their kin. The situation degenerated into chaos after the family of Njeri Kiguta met a police blockade a few meters from their homestead, preventing them from proceeding with their burial. The children of the deceased children attacked the deceased brother-in-law for blocking them from burying their mother in what they termed as a scheme to disinherit them.
Baba yangu mkubwa nimesema aliaga dunia, akaasha wake wawili. Aliaga mwaka wa 2001, akaasha wake wawili. Mke mmoja nimesema ako pande ya Nyahururu, na mwingine alikuwa anaishi hapa. Lakini baada ya baba yangu mkubwa kukufa, shosho alibaki hapa. Lakini shosho yangu ni mzee sana kwa sababu kuna zaidi ya miaka 100. She is about 110 years. Sasa mzee wangu yule amenizaa mimi mwenyewe, alitumia njia za mkato, akawaendea wake wawili wa baba yangu mkubwa, akawanyang'anya shamba yote. Alienda akawa akashugua mwingine, haka akashugua kalipo saa mtoto akiwa na miezi 6. Walitumia njia za mkato, wakaenda kwa mashamba, sijui walitumia nani na nani. Sasa hii shamba yote ikagawiwa huyo mtoto wa miaka akiwa na miezi 6. Hata alikuwa akipelekwa huko kwa maofisa mashamba, alikuwa anashikishwa kidole ndio apige alama zake zionekane.
Ni kweli si uongo. Hiyo ni hakuwa na asisi tara, lakini hakuwa na maliza mwaka. Hii ni mtego yafanya asikwe hapa ndio nyuma wapate njia ya kufanya nini. Lakini mimi sisemi hata ziko hapa, mimi ni msimamizi ya hii mtoto, lakini si mimi nimpatia yeye shamba, alipatiwa na nyanya yake. Nikiwa mimi ndio nasimamia yeye na najua hapa iko makosa, sababu gani nikose kupima hii makosa?
Nikamuuliza kama wenyewe wamejua hiyo onda it is in force, na wakaniambia ni kweli. Sasa ile mtu walienda huko akaweka hiyo kesi ya kusimamisha, si ati hiyo maneno ilisikizwa. Iliwekwa siku, nikaona hiyo onda imewekwa siku ya kesho, si kesho ndio tarehe 9. Sasa ndio uamuzi itatoka. Na sisi unajua tukifelo ku effect hiyo order, si utakuwa tumekosea.
You're watching KTN Prime. Many thanks for watching. After this quick break, more analysis of the Kericho senatorial by-election as well as KTN Business. Stay there.
Well, a very good evening and welcome to KTN Business News. My name is Abi Agena. We begin with some news reaching our news desk where that hundreds of Kenya Airways staff risk losing their jobs if they do not accept to take pay cuts. Sources told KTN that the National Carriers Board is scheduled to meet tomorrow on Wednesday, the 8th of March, and is set to propose pay cuts for staff as the airline seeks to cut on the staff numbers through retrenchment. The airline, which reported a 25.7 billion shillings loss in its full-year results last year, the biggest loss in corporate history, confirmed the need to cut on operational costs. It remains unclear on whether or not those protected by the unions will be shielded from the changes at KQ. Kenya Airways is actually looking at restructuring and working on a turnaround strategy, which is also seeking about 60 billion shillings bailout, and have since sold a number of aircraft to actually include the latest sale of 2 Boeing 777-200ER aircraft to Oman Air, the same carrier that brought its London Heathrow landing slot. Actually, it's tomorrow, not today. Well, as the country struggles to have constant milk supply to meet demand, plans are underway to roll out the embryo transfer technology to help small-scale farmers improve their dairy breeds in the shortest time possible. Philip Kitani has more on how this technology will grow milk supply in the country.
Early this year, the government of Kenya received a high-powered delegation from Nigeria, led by the Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari, and on his to-do list was a visit to a milk processing plant, as Nigeria is a net importer of dairy products.
This type of development can only take place when the head is committed and is interested. It's a great deal of hard work.
But even as Nigeria looks up to Kenya to grow its own dairy sector, Kenya still has a long way to go in satisfying its own local demand. According to the Agricultural Cabinet Secretary Willie Bett, the government is set to set up a dairy improvement program across the country through the embryo transfer technology.
Embryo transplant is the quickest and the most sure way of ensuring that you get the breed you are looking for right away.
However, smallholder dairy farmers are still grappling with availability of top quality breeds to maintain high yields resulting from scarcity of the right breed.
Already, ADC is on embryo transplant program. This is a situation where, but embryo transplant does not mean you don't need the bull station. It is the same genetics which we are going to use now to bring out calves more faster than if you would be inseminating a lot of animals.
This very predicament has seen the government find solution, one of them being the adoption of the embryo transfer technology, which can guarantee over 30 calves from the same animal breed in a year, as opposed to the traditional artificial insemination, which only manages to offer 1 calf in a similar period. Philip Kitani, KTN Business.
And now to some news that might interest shareholders of one bank, Equity. Well, Equity Bank, Kenya's second largest bank, has posted a net profit of 17.3 billion shillings in its 2015 full-year results, representing 1% marginal rise in after-tax profits from 17.2 billion shillings reported in the previous year. Well, despite the dismal performance, the bank has actually attributed this to high interest rates and ballooning operating expenses. The group CEO, Dr. James Mwangi, is not shaken and hopes for better results this year.
By all standards, it seems like it was a turbulent year for Kenya's biggest bank by customer numbers. Equity Bank saw its profitability remaining rather flat in its latest trading results. Compared to its peers such as KCB, which reported a net profit of 19.6 billion shillings, a 16% growth, Equity's results were telling of the volatile macroeconomic environment the bank faced. According to the man at the helm of the bank, James Mwangi, a major offensive is brewing as the bank continues to realign its business strategy to remain competitive.
We registered 24% growth in the balance sheet of the bank, touching almost half a trillion shillings balance sheet now. This was mainly driven by a 23% growth in customer deposit.
Surprisingly, despite posting a slight jump in profits, profits, the bank had headroom to issue shareholders a decent dividend payout. Apart from posting a small jump in after-tax profits on a rather positive footing, the bank's net interest income grew to 43.5 billion from 35.4 billion shillings, a clear indication that the bank's liquidity was in check.
Here we saw 1.9 million customers obtaining loans from their funds, and that again enabled us to quickly translate those 23% growth in deposit into loans, which it grew by 26%. So
the bank's loan book stood out as well, with loans soaring to 269.9 billion from 214.2 billion shillings, while the ratio of non-performing loans to total loans fell to 3.3% from 4.2% in 2014.
The bank has started delivering a lot of convenience. Last year we saw 1.9 million customers obtaining loans from their funds, and that again enabled us to quickly translate those 23% growth in deposit into loans, which it grew by 26%. So that
the bank, which has subsidiaries in Uganda, Tanzania, DRC and South Sudan, says it will be aggressively upping its game in these markets moving forward. On average, the subsidiaries contribute about 6%, approximately 8 billion shillings to the bank's bottom line.
all along we banked all the embassies in South Sudan, and that helps us to sustain the operations. But this week we were shortlisted and won the tender bid to bank the UN humanitarian agencies, 41 of them. So what we see, while the commercial sector may not be performing, all that humanitarian economy, we hope we'll be able to bank it.
The bank's South Sudan operations were massively dented owing to forex losses, leaving the lender at a loss of nearly 5 billion shillings, which came from South Sudan, whose currency was devalued by more than 90%. Abiagina, KTN Business.
Indeed, Equity Bank, one of the stocks to watch out for in 2016. Speaking about 2016, the World Bank did release its economic update for this year, and Kenya's service exports account for about 50%. This is the latest figure coming in from the World Bank, and the total exports and are actually poised to take a lead ahead of goods exports. According to a newly released report by the World Bank, since 2005, ICT, financial services and transport have been on the rise, with Kenya championing its role in human resource service delivery beyond its borders. Despite the living within its means, the World Bank report described Kenya's economy as having non-inclusive growth in the manufacturing industry, which has widened the unemployment gaps in the country. To accelerate this, Kenya will actually need to double its current savings rates through domestic savings. Moving on, stakeholders in the livestock export business have today called on the government to increase its investment in the sector in order to improve its competitiveness internationally. Speaking earlier on the Nairobi Safari Club, Bonaya Bakata, the director of NEMA Livestock Slaughtering and Investment Limited, pointed out there is need for proper branding and proper infrastructure to help achieve both local and international safety standards.
What we are not doing right is A, the issue of policies. We don't have an enabling environment in terms of policies. B, we are not doing well because the government is not supporting both locally and internationally. Remember what Mzee Dubat mentioned. When you talk of Ethiopia or Somalia, it is the government which is in the forefront fighting for the best livestock prices and orders and contracts, unlike Kenya. And thirdly, in Kenya, in the livestock industry, contributing 12 to 13% of the GDP, we invest 0.6% of our money. The same money in the budget is 0.6%. Well, when you compare that with Ethiopia, they are investing 14 to 18%.
And also other members of PPG, the Parliamentary Pastoralist Group, are going to be looking at all those laws that have been there, the policies that we talked about of the 1940s. I am aware that in the National Assembly there's the Livestock Authority Bill. We are to follow up to know how far it is. But after the roundtable meeting, there are a number of things that came up that I think we would want even to look at that bill and look at the policies that are there and now incorporate everything that, that we have discussed.
From that, let's take a quick look at how the money markets as well as the stock markets did perform in trading today in our financial report. Well, from the financial report, that's how we wrap up KTN Business. My name is Abia Gina. Let's do this tomorrow, same time, same place, and thank you for your valued company.
A very good evening and indeed a very warm welcome to tonight's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Lynn Washira. Mathare United's tactician Francis Kimanzi has bagged the February Coach of the Month award. Elsewhere, Gor Mahia head coach Frank Natal has parted ways with the Green Army in favor of the White Knight of Zamalek.
Who will give us a word, then we'll unveil why we are here. We are here with a lazima tupashana na nyinyi apart from this is our small way of saying congratulations, keep it up. Much Fidelity Insurance, ladies and gentlemen.
Pressure has been there since the first game. Of course, if you win a trophy every time, you know, that means that every team will be more tough on your side. But I think that is the whole essence of this award. That every month, if you are the best team in that month, then the next month you should not even relax even an inch, because every team wants to push and every coach wants to do his best. So there will be pressure, and it is pressure to make sure that we achieve better results.
And moving on to other news, double world and Olympic champion Mo Farah will lead a strong British team of 10 to the World Half Marathon Championships in Cardiff on March 26th. Mo will be making his debut at the event where he will face his World Championships opponents, Geoffrey Kamworor, the defending champion, as well as Bidan Karoki.
Taking back the World Half Marathon is going to be my first half marathon, and what a place to do it in hometown, Cardiff. Quite exciting. It's going to be fast. It's known as, you know, as a World Championship, so it's going to be a fast race. Hopefully, you know, the guys will push along, and I can just sit back and, you know, get the home crowd and the support of the home nation. That makes a big difference, and I'm quite excited to be competing there. Hopefully, you know, with the crowd, the massive support, it's going to make a big difference. It'd be amazing if I can add to my collections another global medal. Would be amazing. I said I've never done a World Half Marathon before, so it's going to be my first one. But you know, if I win there, it's going to be another title. Hopefully.
Well, to news that have been making headlines the whole day, Russian tennis star Maria Sharapova has continued to lose sponsors since she announced that she had failed a drug test at the Australian Open due to a substance she was taking for health issues. Longtime sponsor Nike has announced it is suspending ties with Sharapova during the investigations. Watchmaker Taha has decided not to renew its sponsoring contract with the tennis star, and Porsche has postponed planned activities with Sharapova. Sharapova was Russia's flag bearer at the London Olympics, and her positive test is a blow to Russia, whose track and field athletes' participation in the Rio Games remains uncertain. Meanwhile, Serena Williams, the top-ranked player in women's tennis, says that she was shocked to hear her friend and fellow tennis star Maria Sharapova had failed a drug test, but she commended the Russian for showing courage in taking responsibility.
It was very important for me to come out and speak about this in front of all of you, because throughout my long career I have been very open and honest about many things, and I take great responsibility and professionalism in my job every single day, and I made a huge mistake, and I let my fans down. I've let the sport down that I've been playing since the age of 4, that I love so deeply. I know that with this I face consequences, and I don't want to end my career this way. And
well, that's all we had time for tonight. My name is Lynn Washira. Do have a very good night, but do remember Ben Kitili will be right back to wrap up KTN Prime.
So tonight, the long search for justice by Children's Home in Kenya's Kiambu County over the sexual assault of children came to an end after a former American missionary from Oklahoma was sentenced to 40 years in prison. On the big question tonight, we asked you, was a 40-year sentence a fair punishment for the crimes done committed against Kenyan children? Very quickly to some of your views. And Samuel Ingari says, is the best sentence available, just like what happened to Adam Johnson of Sunderland FC. Musa on Twitter says, even if it is not enough, in my opinion at least, it would send a message to like-minded missionaries. Felix Okoko says, I believe it was fair. This should act as an example to those who have gotten away with such crime. It's Amin Ryan says the crime he committed is disgusting, and I'm sure it is disturbing the feelings of many. I think it deserved more. Last one here from Junior Nyabuto on Twitter says, in my opinion, the sentence was not fair. 120 years to do enough for the 3 rape cases. Thank you for participating in our big question discussion. Hope to see you again tomorrow, and thank you for watching KTN Prime. And Ben Kitili. Good night from the KTN News Center. Up next is The Last Word with Sophia Wanu.